Ready to be Romanced. I'm Torry.
And I'm Mariah.
And today we are discussing things
Things
we
we
never
never
got
got
over.
over.
I am so happy to be chatting romance novels with you, Mariah. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Mariah, and Tori and I met when I was doing a photo shoot for RTBT a couple years ago. We were doing like a branding shoot, and then we've just been friends ever since.
Yeah.
And we've only taken photos the one time, but we're going to soon. But yeah, I'm a photographer, and then recently I've just gotten back into reading a lot, and I feel like my focus is kind of leading that way and writing. And that's kind of where I'm putting my time and energy because I would love to be an author myself, and that's like my lifelong dream. So I need to put my focus and energy there in order to make it happen.
I love it. No, it's so cool. I love when people pursue like creative endeavors just because I feel like so much of being an adult, I feel like is like you have to just, focus on what makes you money and stuff like
Hmm.
that. And that's why I love podcasting and I love that you are pursuing writing. Like that's so cool.
Well, and everywhere it's like, to be a good writer, what should you do? And they're like, read. And then I'm like, is 80 books in a year good enough? Like, I just go like to the extreme. I'm like, okay, I need to read a bit more. And then I go from like nothing to like, let's read. Let's set a
Me
goal of like
too.
50, but then read 80. Yeah.
No, totally. Like last year, I only read, I think, like,
Yeah.
I know that for some people, like, it varies person to
Hmm.
person. But I think I read like 28 books. And then this year, I've already read 28 books. And it's mid-March.
Yeah.
But so it just depends on the year. But yeah, totally. I feel like reading makes total sense.
Hmm.
You are more, like, you read romance, but you also read a lot of, like, thrillers and
Hmm.
mysteries and a
Yeah.
little bit of fantasy, a little dystopian YA.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah, I feel like I've always like before I was like, oh, I don't read romance books, but then when I think about like high school and stuff, like all the books I was reading were like, oh, and I also said I'm like I don't read romance and I don't read fantasy. And then I'm like high school, like everything I was reading was like, Hunger Games, Twilight, City of Bones, like literally
yeah,
everything. But yeah, when I got back into reading, I think that's what kind of helps is you find the genre that you're really into, and then all
yeah,
of a sudden it spirals because there's so much to read. And so I was reading so much like suspense and mystery and stuff like that I started to just predict endings. I just was
yeah.
like, oh, I know the twist, I know what's going to happen. And then it became really hard to like, I still enjoyed the books I was reading, but I was like, if I can predict it, then it's just not as fun. So
Totally.
I've been switching genres a bit. I've been getting into like romance and a little bit of fantasy. I think the romance will take off more than the fantasy stuff, but for me, but like there always has to still be like an aspect of something in the romance books. Like there has to be like high stakes and like something like stressful happening. So
Yeah, totally.
yeah.
Which like is kind of the same for me about I think I was reading a lot of romantasy and stuff like that, but going back to a book like this, and we will get into it, but like
Hmm.
it's so refreshing to just have like a fun there is some like thriller mystery type aspect to this book, but like it's
Hmm.
so fun to just go into like an easy rom-com read after like
Hmm.
slogging through pages of like a war in
Yeah, like
Alton,
planning a war.
Ireland. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Well, and I
yeah,
think that this like because I read this one last year and then I reread it for today. But I enjoyed it so much and the whole series so much. But I think that it captured me in the beginning because when you start, there is like an aspect of like stress and something is happening and everything's changing and there's a lot at stake. And then I didn't expect it to be so like funny and like for me to get
yes,
so attached. But it starts out
yeah,
with like definitely there's something going on. I'm like, oh, I need to know
what
what's happening.
happened.
This is kind of the first book that I did in like any romance genre recently too. So this is kind of my
Yes.
introduction.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
point because, like, how did we pick this book? I was like, I'm starting a romance novel review podcast, and you were like, oh my God, I have the perfect book that we should cover together because I'm
Yeah.
obsessed with it. I was like, okay, let's put it on the docket.
Hmm.
And it was just so famous, which we'll talk about in our roundtable discussion, but like, it blew
Hmm.
up so much that it was like, I was going to read it eventually, but like also that it's like so popular and so many people really enjoy it. So it makes perfect sense that we would read it here. Okay, so spoiler warning, we're going to be discussing things we never got over. We won't be talking about anything that comes after that book because it is a series. And just a content warning at the top, we'll be talking about domestic violence, child neglect, gun, and physical violence. Okay, so this book is written by Lucy Score. She is a like very long-term romance novelist, and it was published on January 12th, 2022. Since then, which again, a spoiler for the roundtable discussion, 2 other books have come out. So she's just like whipping these bad boys off.
And they're huge.
And they're fucking huge.
Yeah. I think she must have just got so into the characters in the world that she just like stopped, like finished one and like knew immediately what she wanted to tell with the second and the third and just
whip them off totally because there's this through line of this like mystery. Yeah. But it's so funny because I read on a Kindle, you read paperbacks, but like when you're on a Kindle, because you can't see the physical like pages being read, I would like read like 50 pages and then I'd look at the percentage and it'd be like 3%. I was like, fucking what?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, they're big.
Yeah. Our main character is Naomi, and she is being brought to this small town called Knock 'Em Out. Which, like, what do you think of this name of this town?
I don't know. I feel like it's strange, but then like now they call this, like people call the series like it's like the Knock 'Em Out series.
Yeah.
But it's a really weird town name. And I also just think like once we learn about like the guys in this story, I just am like, oh, it kind of makes sense, I guess. Like big and brawler and like I don't know. It's strange, but it is hard to come up with. It's hard to come up with town names, but I can't remember. I don't remember if we like talked about this before. It's like it's a fake name. Like it's a fake place.
It's a fictional place.
Yeah, it's a fictional place. It's not based on anything.
No. It's like near Washington, D.C. It's in Virginia, but I don't think it has any like semblance to a real town. It's funny because when it was either you first suggested this or I saw it on TikTok and I saw a Knock 'Em Out series, I thought it was going to be like a boxer, like sports romance.
Yeah,
and
no.
Then, no.
Yeah, it is hard to come up. It's hard to come up with town names though, because like I've done that before. Like when it's like trying to write a town, and I'm like, I don't even know where to start. Like I want to know how she came to name it this.
I'll DM her.
Yeah.
Why don't you just call Taylor up?
Yeah, bring her on the pod.
Why don't you just call Lucy up? Yeah, I wonder because it's like with choosing a fictional town, you get the benefit of not having to know all the details. Like if you chose like Vancouver or Victoria or something like that, where we live, it's like you would have to know everything about Victoria or like, or you would get like called out on it. So I guess it's easier to make up a fictional town, but to make it sound realistic. Cause like, come on, like Stars Hollow.
Hollow, yeah. But then like it's memorable, so people love it.
Yeah.
But I think, but if you do like get her on the podcast, I'd like to return. I feel like we have some questions, some things below that we would like to ask.
Literally.
We have some questions for you.
We do. Some unanswered questions. So yeah, Naomi is getting called to Knock 'Em Out because her twin sister, who she isn't in contact with like for the past like decade, needs help. We learn that Naomi is the good girl. She's in good relationships with her parents and stuff like that. But Tina is the wild child and hasn't talked to her family for like a decade. But because Naomi is so like kind-hearted, she's like, okay, my sister needs my help. I'm gonna go help her. It also happens to be the day after or like hours after she left her fiance at the altar. So we don't find out what happened, but we know that it's because their relationship isn't good. Naomi did the breaking up, and she, piles everything into her car, including her wedding dress.
Yeah, her wedding dresses.
And heads to Knock 'Em Out. And the first thing she does, because we find out she's a coffee addict, not like unlike us, like she heads to a coffee shop and the owner thinks that she's Tina, and there's a picture, like a mug shot of Tina basically behind the bar. And the owner's like, Tina, like, we don't mean any harm. Like, please just like leave us in peace and stuff like that. And she's like, what the fuck? Like, I'm Naomi. She like whips out her ID. She's like, also like, what happened? And I'm thinking the same thing, because it's like, what did this chick do that was so bad that she can't be in a coffee shop?
Yeah. Well, and I think she's also at the coffee shop because that's where Tina asked her to meet her. Like specifically, it was like specifically like, I'm in trouble. I need your help. Like, meet me here at this time. So that's why she's like, she's there. But something like this is, we can talk about this later, but like something everyone is thinking that she's Tina. But then when in the descriptions, I'm like, they sound so different. How would you think they were the same? You know what I mean? Like it sounds like Naomi is very like healthy and like nice skin and like very put together. Whereas like Tina's kind of described as like she's been in the sun and it's like, you know, her skin's kind of like rougher and like different hair, different all this stuff. So I'm like, did she just get really good like skincare overnight or something? Or like I don't know, but
yeah, what do they think? But people are like dumb like that. But you're totally right, because she like has like dyed her hair and like isn't taking care of herself, obviously. So they look completely different. But I feel like, you know, and like she's interacting with guys at this point. I feel like they're just like not observant.
I guess she's also had a really rough 24 hours and she's like driven really far and she had been getting married. So she might have been crying. Like maybe there's, you know,
she looks like disheveled.
Yeah. But basically they're like, get out of here. You're not welcome here. They're pretty ruthless about it.
No, they're so brutal. And we never really like find out what she did that she can't patron this cafe anymore. But basically Naomi is like, again, she's smart, she's quick on her feet, and she can prove to the barista that she is Naomi, not Tina, which everyone calls her not Tina, which is really funny because everyone knows her, knows her sister. And in comes Knox, this huge tattooed man who like also thinks she's Tina, and he's like, don't give our friend a hard time here. Like, you gotta go. They do this whole rigmarole where, like, he's, like, trying to get her out and being, like, rude to her. And she's like, no, like, I'm Naomi. Like, am I gonna get this treatment everywhere I go in this damn town?
I also love when she's like, where's the Southern hospitality? Like, she's like, I thought, like, what's happening? Why is everyone so mean?
I know, which, like, I didn't get, but I think it was, like, the other meant, like, small town. Like, where it's, like, community and, like, everyone's kind of, like, helping each other out. And it's, like, you're not going to find that for Tina. But we do get that in other aspects of the book, for sure. So he starts calling her Daisy, which is, like, I really actually like this nickname. I don't usually love nicknames that people get in books because she has daisies in her hair because she literally left the altar. And she starts calling him Viking because he's tall and blonde. And we learn he's like in his early 40s. He's owns a bar. So like he kind of has good standing with the community. And he grew up there and all of that stuff. And she is a few years younger than him. But she obviously needs a lot of help. So he offers to help her.
Gruffly. Angrily, rudely,
like it's like very like growly, like raspy,
like he's like, oh, I guess I have to do this. It's like, you don't have to do this, but he like continues just to be like mean,
and then I'm
anyways. Like, okay, he's like, get in the truck.
Do you like this like grumpy sunshine trope?
I think when I read it the first time, I was like, oh, shut up. Like, I don't know. I feel like it like it's fine, but then like I know, like, I just, when I see it change, it gets better. Then I'm like, oh, okay. Like, it changes a little bit. I'm like, it's fine. So, like, now that I know, like, the whole book, I'm like, oh, it's totally fine. But rereading it for a second time, I was like, he is brutal. Like,
he is brutal. Totally.
Really brutal. And, like, and then, look, we'll talk about it, but kind of, like, later, there's, like, a little bit of redemption. And then he, like, ruins it again and says stupid things. So I guess it's kind of like, okay, well, it's realistic. Like, it's not just, like, it's not just, like, oh, like, he gets better and better. And he's a completely different person. By the end, he's like still the same person, but it's just different. And like, like makes mistakes throughout the way. But I don't know, if someone was talking to me like this and then was like, get in my truck, I'd be like, no, I'm not doing this.
And she's like, I'm hooped, so I'm going to. But I totally agree. I was telling you about some of the parallels to a book I just read for another podcast that I'm going to be a guest on called The Worst Guy by Kate Canterbury. And it's Grumpy Sunshine too. And I was telling Becky, the host of that show, I was like, the way that I was like, I like Grumpy Sunshine, but there's some parts that I'm like, this guy is taking it way too far. And if he ever said that to me, I'd be like, fuck you, I'm out of here. Like, I'm not doing this. But the fall is so much better because you get this huge like change in behavior.
Well, not to bring up Gilmore Girls again, but like that's like a Grumpy Sunshine example. But like Luke is nice. Like there's a difference. Like I think in this book, like when I'm reading Knox, it's like, okay, grumpy, but it's like there's a difference when it's just like mean.
Yeah, he's like being a dick versus like Luke wouldn't hurt a fly.
No, and he like does little things like, and sometimes it's like secretly and it comes out, or he like does nice things in the background, but he's like always has the best interest. And I guess Knox does too, but like I just couldn't. I don't know. It's just the extreme way of talking. But anyways.
Yes. No, I feel the exact same way. They go to, I think they first go to the police station to file a report about her missing car. Did we say that?
No, we didn't say that. We were like, Knox came in and we were just like.
We just went off the rails.
What a dick. But, yeah, she realizes her car has been stolen.
Yes.
While she was in the coffee shop.
And then Knox offers to give her a ride back to, I guess, this motel she's staying at. And because she's like, I have no money, no job, no car. So he takes her, I think, first to the police station. They file a report about the missing car. She meets his brother, Nash, who is the chief of police, and notices that the sign on the front of the police station is Knox's name. So she's like, okay, I'll save that factoid for later. I think
it even says, she's like, is there 2 Knox Morgans in this town? And I'm like, no.
No, really. Just the one.
Yeah.
And then they both drive to a motel to get the rest of her stuff. And in her room, it's, she's been robbed. So everything is everywhere. Her suitcase, the money she brought for her sister, like everything is gone. And there is an 11-year-old named Waylay. Waylay.
I always said Waylay.
Waylay.
Yeah, that's how I pronounce it. But
yeah, she's sitting there watching TV, and she's just like, "Oh, hey, Knox," because everyone knows that Waylay is Tina's daughter, and because she is such a like absentee parent, obviously she's been getting a lot of support from the community. That's the small town hospitality that Naomi was looking for.
And I think reading it the second time, like I noticed that they mentioned, I don't think they had been in the town for very long. Tina and Waylay, I don't think they had, maybe like a year or a year and a half. Like it hadn't been a long time. So it's like, obviously Tina just came in and just like caused so many problems. Literally. Yeah.
Yeah. And do we ever figure out, and maybe this is a question for a later book, but like what the initial...
I was going to say it's a question for Lucy.
It's a question for my upcoming interview with Lucy.
Yeah.
But like what actually happened with Tina and Naomi where they had a falling out, because she has a fucking 11-year-old and Naomi had no idea that she existed. So that means that they weren't talking for like over 12 years.
Yeah. Well, I think they just were never close. Like later when you see, it's like talking about pictures of them, it's always like you can see the clear difference between them. And then also since Naomi's always trying to be like the good daughter and like excel and do all that stuff, maybe there's probably like resentment there, but they probably also just didn't have anything in common. And I think it just says like Tina just like moved away, like just left.
Yeah.
So
because like we got those hints that they... And, like, that Tina was kind of a little bit awful to Naomi, like, hooked up with, like, a guy that she liked, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, is that... What she had done doesn't seem like a 12-year feud that they should be having.
Yeah.
So I was, like, waiting for, like, a bomb to drop, like... I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, she did something awful. But anyways, I guess now she's robbed. She's robbed her. She's stolen her car. And she left her with her kids. So I guess that's enough to, to do it in. So Knox is like, okay, so you're obviously, like, fucked. Like, your credit cards are gone. So you have no money. You have no job because you used to work with your ex-fiance. So now that you broke it off, you don't have a job. And you
No
yeah,
car.
no car, no place to live.
I guess she could have stayed at the motel, but he's like,
Yeah,
this
like
isn't safe.
this isn't a place for an 11-year-old or whatever.
This isn't safe.
Um,
You're coming with me. And then
yeah.
she goes. I'm like, okay.
And he's like, you can stay at this lady's place named Lisa J, but like doesn't explain that that's his grandma, and he also lives on the lot.
Yeah.
But he takes her to this like you know, picturesque. It's like a big house. It used to be like a B&B, and there's like a cottage and like a cabin on the same lot, but there's like a creek, and like, you know, I'm just picturing like the perfect summer escape kind of place.
Yeah. Or this book just turns into like a murder.
Yeah. Well, there was a point where he was like driving down the dirt road to get to Lisa J's, and I was like, if I was her, I would be like having a panic, because she doesn't have a phone, because the phone was stolen in the car. So I was like, I'd be having a full-on panic attack.
I think she makes a comment too. She's like, "Are you gonna take us out here and kill us or
Kill
something?"
us?
Like some comment. And she's like, "La di da da da." I'm like, no, I would actually be like, how do I get out of this car? How do I even know that this kid is like, maybe you're luring me in with this kid and like make me feel bad. I'm like, I don't know this
I
kid.
didn't even
Like,
think of that. Yeah, you don't know this kid from anywhere.
yeah. Anyways,
Fuck,
but it's
that's
okay.
so funny.
It's legit. They take her to the house.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, which is like really nice, because Naomi is like next of kin. She gets to like basically guardianship or temporary guardianship of Waylay, and her parents, she can't even call her parents because they're on a cruise. Which is
Doesn't want to
convenient.
ruin their time.
Yeah. So she like doesn't say anything. She just takes the kid. And that really shows you her like kind heart, but also like, you know, that she would just do something like that.
Yeah. And I think it also kind of, even just saying that about like her parents, kind of shows who they are and like how close they are. Because she says like, I could tell them right now, but they will like, they'll leave their cruise, they'll show up here for her, but then also for this granddaughter that they didn't know existed the whole time. So she's like, I can't tell them right now. I have to strategically plan this so that they don't freak out and get like come here right away. So
Totally. So we see kind of things starting to come together for Naomi. Lisa lets her stay there for free if she helps out around the house. A friend offers her a job at Honky Tonk, which is a bar, which she didn't know at the time, but it's Knox's bar. And then just like the community's coming together, like Lisa gets them like bikes and stuff like that, so Naomi and Waylay have a way to get around town. And Knox is like consistently rude to Naomi. Like he continues to be super rude. And I feel like she's like, why is he being so rude? Also, he's so fucking hot. But like no one else is being rude to me. Like even his brother is like so nice to me. And it's just like, I always want to just be like, because he's obsessed with you.
Yeah, literally. And he says that in his chapters too. He's like, I can't get her out of my head. And I'm like, dude, you're dumb.
Yeah. I know.
I wonder why.
I know. I always want to like grab him and shake him. And it's like, no, you're just in love with her. Yeah. And he's always like denying that he wants her, and like, but he continues to like help her out. Like he's like, yeah, you can like work at the bar and like all of this stuff.
And he'll like show up. Like he's like, I want nothing to do with you. And then he like shows up to do this and shows up to do that. And then like he knows she's gonna be working. So he like shows up to the bar. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, dude.
The writing is on the wall. And at first when he starts to pursue her and like kind of flirt with her more, he only does it because he is currently in a feud with his brother, which we find out later on is because when they grew up, the police gave him, his brother, and their friend who grew up with them, Lucien or whatever,
Lucy,
a hard time.
Yeah.
And then when his brother became a cop, he was like, why would you become something that we like didn't get along with growing up? Which is totally legitimate. And so they're kind of like bickering and don't have the closest relationship. And he's like, oh my God, Naomi's like, Gorge, I'm going to pursue her. And Knox is like, over my fucking dead body. Are you going to like touch this chick?
Yeah.
This is what I think my favorite part of the book. It's like this first third or whatever, maybe half, where it's just like the few weeks of summer before September, where like there's a series of events that are just really fun to read. Like when Steph, Naomi's best friend, comes to visit and like check in on her. That's really fun. She starts working with the library and becoming friends with this girl named Sloane.
Which is another thing. She only started working at the library because Knox gave money to the library for the grant so they could hire her.
Yes, hire her. Totally.
So
He's always doing these like behind the scenes, like wheeling and dealing. But it's like so cute. They like do a back to school makeover montage like at the mall and at the barber shop that he also owns, and it's just like so fun. Also, again, spoiler alert for our discussion, but like this is becoming a TV show, and it's like this I feel like is the perfect like this is going to be so fun to watch, because it does really remind me of shows like Gilmore Girls and stuff like that, where it's just like these like really fun scenes, or like The Summer I Turned Pretty, like these really fun moments that we'll get to see play out.
I loved this school makeover stuff, and I just loved that like Whaley's getting the first time in her, like for the first time in her life, she's being like taken care of and like treated. And I as much as Knox is like a dick the whole book, he's not to her. And he's like so good with her, and he's like, it's just so cute. And then I also love at the end that they like do this whole like school makeover, back to school shopping, and they get home and things have gone so well, and then they show up and Steph is there, and she's like, oh my gosh, like my best friend. And then Knox is just like, get your shit out of the car, I need to go, I got places to be, because it's a guy, so he's freaking out. But I love Steph so much.
Totally. He like shoves the bags in Naomi's hands, and he's like,
and then she kisses him on the cheek, and then he's like, oh.
Guys are so dumb. It's really, really cute. But totally, because he doesn't infantilize her. Actually, like, no one in the book really infantilizes her. But they treat her like an 11-year-old. Like, it's like, no, you still need parent supervision. You're not a teenager, and like you need to eat vegetables and stuff like
literally
that.
There's so much vegetable talk.
Like you need a consistent bedtime, and like you can't just like, you can have responsibilities, you can do your tech support with seniors at the library and stuff like that, but like you still need to be a kid and get help from adults, which I thought was really good. And I also just, I love their relationship. Like, there's a moment at the very end of the book where Knox and Naomi are kissing, and Whaley's like, barf. And then he just like, he pushes her, like, just like pushes her shoulder or whatever. And like, she like falls back and stuff like that. And like, just like those types of things that I'm like, this is like a fun parent-child relationship.
Yeah. Also, Whaley, like all this stuff she hasn't been able to do, and like she's had so much freedom, because she says like sometimes my mom doesn't come home for days and days and days, or like there's a part where she later in the book describes like her mom's mad and like cuts her hair and all this stuff. I know. And so she kind of like pushes back a little bit. She's like, I don't need a babysitter, and like, but then she pushes, but then it actually like it doesn't end up lasting for too long, because then when Naomi's at work, she calls home to check on how things are going, because Whaley's with Liza J, and then she's like, oh, like we got pizza and we're watching this movie and we're having so much fun. So it's like Whaley kind of actually really easily like blends in, like, you know, she already knows Knox and Nash, but then they like all become closer, and then she's with Liza J, and then later in the book, I mean, we'll get to it, but like other people show up and she's friends with them, and then everyone's showing up for Whaley at like soccer, and I'm like, it is so cute.
It's so cute. And it's funny, I'm not usually into romance novels with kids, like kid content, and I hate like a surprise pregnancy and like stuff like that, but this is like actually really fun. I really enjoyed it. Like, there's one night where Knox eats dinner at their cottage, or she's like, can we like watch TV after dinner? And Naomi's like, yeah, for sure. And then Naomi's like, okay, like let's say goodbye to Knox. And then he's like, oh no, I'll watch TV too. And then they all sit down and they're watching like a dumb like makeup tutorial or something like that. And it's like the dog Waylay.
We'll talk about that later.
Knox and Naomi, and like it's just so cute.
And you can tell that he's like into it, because she's trying to get him to leave. She's like, all right, time for you to go. And he's like, no, I got time. I can watch this. And he's like this big guy sitting down watching a makeup tutorial with them. I love Waylay too, because she just like clearly has had no rules, and she's just like swearing all the time. And they're like, stop.
I know. Naomi's like, language, like all the time. But she says like shit and damn and like the F word and stuff like that.
Or she's like trying to learn how to control her like stress and like when she gets angry, and she'll just like be on the field playing soccer and she starts like swearing at the ref.
Yeah, she gets like
Yeah.
yellow cards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
She's
Yeah.
so funny.
Also, sorry, before we go into like the like more stuff as things are going, can I just talk about a scene I hated?
Yeah, duh.
I hated
I'm
I
not gonna
hated when
turn that down.
I hated when she first moved in, and then she's like enjoying her time on the back porch with her coffee like the next morning, and then the
Oh my
dog comes
God.
out and is like peeing,
Yeah.
and then Knox comes out of his house on the back porch
Yeah.
and he
Thank
starts
you.
peeing. I think
Thank you.
Is Steph already there at that point actually? Because doesn't she go inside? No, no, no. I think it's just her and Waylay. Because she like goes inside and Waylay is like, "Why do you look like that? Why do you look so
Yes.
red?
Why are you like sunburned or whatever?
Yeah,
And
why are
she's
you
like,
sunburned?"
yeah.
But I'm like, I get that you have a house in the middle of nowhere, but also you know someone's living in that cabin now, and also just gross. You're not the
No,
dog.
it's so gross.
Yeah,
Because also it's like it wasn't like he was peeing in the like forest line behind
just
their property.
off
He
the
was
deck.
peeing off their deck. And then we see in like later scenes, again, very fun summer content, but they have like barbecues out there. They do campfires, they do s'mores, they swim, like all of that. And I was like, yeah, and that's where Knox is peeing. But in romance novels, especially rom-coms, there always
Yeah,
has to be a moment about underwear or seeing each other's junk because it's
yeah,
like so it's like we got both of those in this book because
yeah.
when they were shopping they stopped at Victoria's Secret, which again very
Oh,
classic. He buys her the underwear and then
and then he
he
like holds her in front of him.
yes.
And I was like, sir,
Yeah, I was like, okay, also like fucking chill.
yeah.
I like
Like you had to be pretty sure she was going to be okay with that because what if he
yeah.
like slapped you?
Okay,
My
yeah,
God.
just to be very clear, it's because he gets an erection at the store and then they're like checking out at the cashier, I'm pretty sure, and he like pulls her in front of him and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're totally right. You better be damn sure that she's okay with that. And
Like
also, why are you getting an erection like in an
it's
underwear store?
underwear. Are you 40 or are you like how old are
Are
you?
you 12?
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally. Ugh.
Yeah. That's so true. But yeah, totally. The peeing scene killed me. And because she like fully sees his dick, and I was like, that wouldn't happen because feel
How
like
far away is she?
how far away are you? And also like how far are you pulling down your pants? Because your mom also lives on this property.
Sorry,
Or no,
Knox
not
is
your mom,
no,
your
my
grandma.
Knox is just like pants to the ground.
Literally.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm glad that you felt the same way.
Yeah, I was like, your grandma is fucking 20 feet away, so like keep it in your pants. Like literally.
I mean, I kind of imagined it like you first drive up, there's the main house, and then like you keep driving, and then there's like cabin, and then maybe you keep driving, and then that. So maybe he's on the opposite side, so she wouldn't. But the cabin, like clearly there's, anyways.
Yeah, there's clearly like a vision
Hmm.
line to the cottage or whatever. But no, you're right. It probably is further away because there's
Hmm.
times in the books where he's like, I'll drive you home after your shift at the honky tonk because
Yeah.
like I live there. But then it seems like I'll drive you like to your doorstep. So
Hmm.
you're right. There's probably some distance between the houses, but I'm like still like fucking I don't know. I hate guys who like pee
I know.
outside.
I think that's what made me in the beginning. I was like, ew,
I know.
like don't
Like,
do
unless
that.
we're like camping or something like
Yeah.
that, like just don't fucking do that, please. Oh my God. So she continues working at Honky Tonk, and again, she's like killing it. All the patrons love her.
Mhm.
The community is starting to really like her. She's getting like friends with, you know, people she works with and stuff like that. And one night there is a legal poker game in the back of the bar hosted or like, yeah, I feel like put together by,
Yeah.
I think, okay, so this is like the thing. So the guy's name is Lucian.
Hmm.
And this kills me because I swear to God, when I covered Akatar, I looked it up and I swear it was like Lucian. So I
Yeah, yeah.
changed to Lucian. Then I looked it up again and everyone's saying Lucian.
Hmm.
So what is it?
I don't know. They call him, yeah, it's like his name, but then they call him Lucy after that. And then like, I don't know if it comes up. This isn't a spoiler, but he's referred to as Lucifer by someone
I
else
love
later.
that. I
So-
love that. Like it's not discussed in this book, but it
Yeah.
is very clear that he is like a badass maybe doing illegal things like this poker game.
Yeah. But like not like small town like bad boy, more like not high class, but like he's I don't know, it's more mysterious and I love the whole scene and I love her like in there interacting with everyone so much.
Totally, because I do kind of think at some points Nox kind of does think she's a little bit of a like, not a space case, but like, not a dummy, but like kind of naive, I guess.
Hmm.
But she can hold her own.
Yeah, and he says
Like,
like kind of like goody goody and like I think he's
yeah.
thinking like he's probably thinking like complete opposite of Tina. Like he's probably just
Yes.
like and like she shows up with daisies in her hair and like he
Right.
knows about like the guy she was gonna marry and so he probably just like kind of creates this thing. But he knows she's smart because she picked it up really fast and he knows that she's quick because every time everything he says to her, she's like right back at him. Like
Totally.
it's not like he's mean and she's like, oh no, like she's like yeah, she just calls him out.
Totally. So she's like serving at game. He's mad that she's the one doing that because again, he's obsessed with her and doesn't know it yet. But he's like, anyone else could be the server or whatever. And she's like, no, I know that I can handle this. I'm making bigger tips than I would if I was out on the floor. So he's like, fine. And then at one point, she like gets the people playing the game to teach her how to play. And she like wins 22K.
Yeah. But he like opens the door and she's just in the
Yeah,
middle of them playing and he
plain.
like freaks out.
I cannot wait to see this depicted on
Hmm.
TV. I'm so fucking excited. Yeah, like I'm like she's confident, she can like hold her own. Just because she's goody goody doesn't mean she's like yeah, naive to things that go
Hmm.
on, I guess. So yeah, I love that. And yeah, like you said, Waylay is enjoying the stability of
Hmm.
having a guardian that is present and not flaky, and she's making new friends and just like killing it. All of a sudden, Nash gets shot. There's a break in at the police department. Someone was trying to find something. We don't know what. And he gets shot. So Knox goes to the hospital to see if his brother's okay. And who goes and checks on him? Naomi.
Hmm.
I guess she does not owes him, but like I guess they are kind of in this relationship that it's like we do things for each other. It's not quite a
Hmm.
friendship at this point, but
Yeah.
it's
Well,
something.
and I know she's working and then she gets a call. Was it Liza that calls her? I'm not sure, but like she said she gave her the news that Nash had been shot and then she's like all concerned and then like Knox kind of like drops because he's at work too and he kind of like drops the main like thing and he like rushes over and he's like baby what's wrong and I'm like oh whoa
It's on.
and then she's like it's not for me it's for you and then like the police officers come in to like tell him so I think they're like together at the time that they find out so like she goes too and also she's obsessed with him too so
And while they're there, Nash is like unwell in
hmm
obviously he was just shot. So I feel like this is a time where you see someone in a different light if they are like in the hospital.
hmm
And Knox is like, okay, I should also like make peace with my brother because I
like
don't want to
almost
see him like
lost him
this. Yeah, I
yeah
almost lost
hmm
him. I'm like scared shitless. So they make amends. And we learn a little bit more about their backstory, like how Knox had actually won the lottery, which is
hmm
so funny. And he gave money to all of his family members, including Nash. And Nash like donated it to build out this new police station. And he was
hmm
already mad at him for picking that career path because of how he was treated as a teenager by them. So he's just like, it's just tenuous. It's,
yeah well and also he's like I gave you this money to help take care of you
yeah,
and you
why
like
are
won't
you,
you won't use it
yeah,
for you and you're using it for this so
yeah. Like he
yeah
just doesn't get the decisions that he's making. But I was like, this very easily could have been solved with like a few conversations, but
yeah
whatever.
I also had this thought of like she already likes him, but then all of a sudden she finds out he won the lottery, and in my head I'm like, does she like him more now? Is she like
Literally,
perfect?
literally, because she's like, okay, so he like won $11 million, which is like a good amount where it's like he's not like yacht rich, but he's not like he's
Hmm.
still he invested in properties.
Yeah,
He has his bar and his barber shop, but he's not like, I don't know, blowing it and
yeah,
stuff like that. Which is smart. Like, you should invest it into your hometown and stuff. He clearly,
Mm-hmm.
like, has a deep respect for the people that live there.
Yeah. And he wants to stay busy. Like he could have just
Yeah.
not really done anything, but
Yeah, he could have, like, retired, but he still, like, works. He's, like, the
Mhm.
manager at the bar, and he still, like, takes on a few clients at the barbershop. Because, again,
Yeah.
he, like, likes that. Naomi goes to comfort Knox when he's done talking with his brother, and he's like, literally, like, I'm not in control right now. Like, don't come near me. Like, what?
It's like an Edward Cullen moment. I'm dangerous. I'm not afraid of you.
That's literally all I could picture was Edward like,
Yeah.
running away and be like, if I could outrun you or whatever. It's like, it's so fucking Edward Cullen coded. And it's like, what did you think you were going to do to her? But the truth is that he was going to kiss her. And I guess that might have been seeming like a mistake. But they kiss. And she's like, oh my fucking God. Like, this is so crazy.
Well, because he kisses her and then he just like goes into the room.
Yeah.
Like he just leaves. He's like, because he kind of like opened up to her, but then he just like kisses her and then he's like leaves, and then she's alone in the room or like in the hallway or whatever, and she's like, okay.
Yeah, and she like goes back to her cottage, like tries to get to sleep, and she's like the gambling, the kiss, the lottery, the gun, like.
I love how you included the lottery. Like, he's mean, but he's rich.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on, and the next morning he comes and visits her.
And Waylay is like going to school or going to a sleepover.
No, she's hanging out with someone. She's not present and accounted for.
Yeah, she's not in the house.
She's not in the house. He comes and they have sex. And they keep telling each other, like, oh, this is just going to be, like, a one-time thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously, like, something crazy just happened. So, like, you're, like, you need this reprieve or whatever. But, like, this isn't happening again.
Yeah.
And
except he comes in the house. He comes in the house and he's just pretty much like, that's what's happening. Like, there's no talking. There's no nothing. He's just like.
And you just know when you're reading this shit, you're just like, yeah. It's like the narrator. It's like, and we knew that wasn't going to be a one-time thing or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. The grandparents come in.
And then she goes downstairs and then they're there and she's like in her, it must be like midday because her dad is like,
it's
oh, are you feeling okay? You're in your pajamas.
That's why I liked this scene so much, because I feel like whenever, you know, couples get together in romance novels, it's, you know, like after a dinner or like after a party or whatever. And like, I loved that it was just like in the morning. Mm-hmm. And then she's like in a nightie and she like comes down the stairs and he's like, is everything okay? And then
no, he says, he's like, babe, where are you? Come back to bed or something.
He comes down the stairs.
Yeah.
The mom's like, oh my fucking God.
I love her mom so much. Her mom is like, good job. Like, wow, I see why you're here. And like, oh, so funny. And I love how they just kind of like, they just like barge in the house too. They're just taken over. They're like, oh, we're here. And like, because that's why they're there, because she had let them know eventually about Waylay. And so they're like, we're here. And they're like, oh, the cruise. And they're talking, they're just moving their stuff in and they're coming in. And there's a line where Naomi's like, oh yeah, do you guys want to like go for brunch or go here or go anywhere else? Like, she's like, can we go anywhere? And then Knox comes down the stairs.
Yeah. Again, it's going to be so fun on the TV show, I feel like. Yeah, I love the interruption type of scene. So they like, again, kind of fake date, which I'm going to talk about this in my like gripes and grumbles, just so that how many tropes this book relies on. But like to her parents and to the like CPS person, they like basically say that they're dating because I guess people will assume that she's like an unfit guardian if she has a hookup buddy. Like it's like, okay.
And I also feel like anyone who lives in the town knows him, and they'd be like, they know what he's like, but they also have seen him, so they're like, it's fine.
Yeah, totally. The summer plays out and it is very cute. If people like summertime small town romances where they like hook up in like a field or like hook up in the car in like in a field,
yeah.
Or if you like the jean shorts kind of sundress type of aesthetic in your romance novels, like this is the book for you, because
there's so much about sundresses.
So much about sundresses. I was like, I cannot wait for sundress season. And yeah, like they like continuously like hook up. A lot of this book, a lot of times when they're hooking up, there is a family member like very near them.
Like at the barbecue.
Yeah. They host a barbecue one night and he like takes off her bathing suit top as
They're like,
everyone's gonna go get a hot dog.
they're like under the balcony or something because she's like from
Yeah.
above, she can hear them talking. And I'm like, what are you doing?
100%.
But
It
he's
like
obsessed. He's just like, I just
yeah.
can't help it.
It's so funny. So September rolls around. Waylay starts school. At first, she's not doing well because there's a teacher that's like picking on her. But after they like sort that issue out, she's being like a better student and she's on the soccer. She plays soccer and stuff like that. So like the CPS like social worker is like, oh no, I can see that like this stability is really doing wonders on this kid. She's like more social and stuff like that.
And with the teacher too, I was just gonna say like the reason the teacher's picking on her is because Tina slept with the teacher's husband.
Yeah.
And so she's taking it out on the kid. And then also, but it like the good thing is like Naomi shows up, Knox shows up, the grandparents show up. So it's like it shows the support that she has. And then they say to her, like, if you have a problem, you can come to us. Like, that's why we're here. We are here to like take care of the problem. Like, you don't have to do this on your own. And she was gonna like either leave a virus on the teacher's computer or let like live mice out into her desk. I love that part for a TV show too, when they're all like talking to the teacher, getting mad at the teacher, and then they spot Waylay and she's like got the mice, and then they like
she's hiding and
Waylay like
the mice.
crawls out, and then the grandma's like, oh, I have to go get something. And like it's just very like I feel like when Lucy was writing it, she was very much like visualizing like what will look good or be entertaining if it was like coming to life. Or maybe that's when she writes, maybe that's like how she pictures everything.
Totally. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think this scene was actually really important because you see for the first time Naomi having to like discipline Waylay. She kind of overdoes it. And it just shows you again, it's like she became a mom basically overnight, and she still is also figuring out what her parenting style is, and like also like what's gonna work for Waylay and like all of this stuff. So yeah, Knox and Naomi continue to like hook up, but they're not committing to anything because they're denying their feelings for each other. And we see in the book also between these like happy moments that there's like a few moments that Naomi notices something that's off. Like, for example, one time she notices, like, her cottage was unlocked. And then she's like, oh, it must have just been Waylay. And then she's like, oh, my closet doors are open. And she's like, Waylay must have, like, been looking for something. And then when she's working at one of her shifts at the library, this man comes in and she gets just, like, a weird vibe. And he, like, specifically asks for tech support and makes a joke, like, I would even take a kid helping me out.
Yeah.
That she's like, okay, like, things are weird, but nothing's, like, so suspect that, like, I feel like there's something wrong, really, really wrong.
She just gets a bad sense. And I also don't remember if Waylay's there that day or not, but she like sends him away. Like she like kind of just gets his information and sends him away. So I don't know if like she would have done that if Waylay was there, but I don't know. I can't remember if that was the day that Waylay was there and she just was like, I don't know. It was
really good instincts. You're totally right, because she's just like, I'll get your number. She doesn't like send him up to the second floor or whatever where Waylay is like working or so she leans into her intuition, which is obviously really smart. Yeah, we're just seeing these like moments of co-parenting basically with Waylay, Naomi, and Knox. One of my favorite parts actually about this book was when there's a night where Knox and Naomi are working late at Honky Tonk, and then he drives her home and they're talking about like the next day, and she's like, yeah, I have to, like, it's like 3 a.m. or something like that, and she's like, yeah, I have to wake up at 6 or 7 or whatever to get Waylay ready for school. And then he has this moment of realization and he's like, oh yeah, that means like all of my female staff, like depending on the situation they've got at home with help, but like basically have to work the night shift and then wake up and like get their kids ready for school and pack them lunches and drive them and all of that stuff. So the next morning he wakes up and she's like, you didn't have to do that. Like, you're not obligated to like wake up at this time. But he's like, no, I wanted to do this. Like, he gets her coffee and her a smoothie and like all this stuff that's just very cute.
I liked the interactions. Like, I mean, the restaurant stuff is really fun because if you've worked in a restaurant before, you're like, oh, I recognize all these and like the personalities
Tropes.
and the tropes. And like, I think one of the line cooks like brings out some food or something. And I'm like, oh, this is so funny. But I also like the interactions with him and the ladies because they also are like no bullshit and they just tell him off too. And I also really like when the first night that he drove Naomi home, they like go get in the car and then they sit in it. And then she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm making sure that all the ladies, as they're leaving, get into their cars and then they leave and then I leave. And I'm like, oh, I mean, that's like, it's like bare minimum. It's just nice. But you know what I mean?
I know.
Because it's showing, it's like a glimpse into like, he actually like cares and he's nice. Totally. And like in the restaurant, they're going back and forth all together. Like they'll make these like comments and they're like, you know, giving each other a hard time and they're like arguing or whatever, bickering, but it's like for fun. And then it shows like he actually really cares about everyone. So
totally. And this is like, I feel like a lot of guys are always like, what can I do to like be a good ally to women or whatever? And it's like these like little things. It's noticing that your female employees or coworkers or whatever like maybe just had a long night at work and then have to be up with their kids or or like being like, oh, it might not be super safe for them to like walk home or get to their car or whatever, so like I'm gonna check in with them. Like it's like those little things that are so nice.
Yeah, and the poker game too, I guess. Like, I mean, he was kind of over the top with Naomi, but I guess it is like these are dangerous people or could be dangerous. So I need to make sure someone that can handle themselves is in there. And also, I feel like it doesn't really say it, but I'm wondering with Lucian, whatever his name is like it's his friend. So I wonder like how much he really wants this happening in his restaurant, but it's like it's his friend. Maybe his friend's just like, this is what's happening, and it's a small town, and this is like not very many places. But I guess that's also like it's a concern for Naomi, but I feel like no matter who was serving them, he'd probably be like keeping an eye on things. Them. Yeah.
Totally. Absolutely. Completely. Yeah. One last thing about that, and then we can move on. But I also find that like you're totally right. Like it wouldn't matter who was helping that he would have concern about them, because I feel like a lot of books, you're like, I feel like the male main character like would only care if he was attracted to the person or like thought the person was hot or like of value or whatever. Yeah. Like, or that it's like the person that they're with instead of just like all women.
Yeah. I definitely feel like he'd be the type of person in a restaurant, like if one of his servers like was being like, if someone was being a creep to them or like grabbed them or did anything, he would like, he would kick them out. Like it would be, they could probably trust. I mean, and it's probably because of his like, he shows some like anger sometimes, but if they like went up to the office and they were like, this just happened, he'd be like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like,
not
you're out of
here.
here.
My bar.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. So we get more information from Nash because, again, he's working hard at that police station. He is
like recovering.
Yeah, with his like arm in a sling.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, we actually found out Tina's been in town. She or like her friends are responsible for the break-in at the police station. And she defo broke into your cottage. And Naomi's like shocked. And I'm like, how shocked can you really be at this point? Like,
she stole your car. She's obviously around.
This is another big turning point, I feel like, for Nox and Naomi. Also, I feel like these things just happen so quick in succession. Yeah. So just like bear with us. But I feel like
this person is shot.
Yeah. Then the break-in, and now Warner enters the picture. Like,
sorry, we were in a grocery store today waiting to get a sandwich, and we're just like talking about like this book and this person's shot and this and this and this, and then I'm like, okay, we need to make everyone around us in this line know that we're talking about books. Like,
yes, we have seen each other twice today, but you're totally right. We were talking about this book. And I was yelling, of course, and like I'm just like, and then Nash was shot, and she's like, in the book. Like, it happened in the book.
Yeah.
So funny. Yeah. So Warner, Naomi's ex-fiance, shows up at the honky tonk, and he's like, I want to get back together with you because he like can't take care of himself without the
Yeah,
help of Naomi.
I miss all the things you did for me. I miss how you cleaned up after me. I'm like, oh, that makes me really want to come back.
Like, what a fucking dumbass. But he grabs Naomi, and Knox comes to the rescue and beats him up and sends him away. And Knox takes Naomi into his office, and he's like, you can come here anytime you need like a reprieve or like somewhere safe to go. And Naomi's like, by the way, he was abusive to me during our relationship. That's one of the reasons why I left him. And she's like, I knew he was abusive. She feels guilty because she's like, I knew he was abusive, but because he was good on paper and because, you know, kind of the sunken cost fallacy, like I had already been with him for a while. My job was wrapped up with him and like all of that stuff. She's like, I basically was still going to marry him. And I feel like that's like a really relatable feeling. Like maybe not to that extreme in some circumstances, I'm sure, but like I feel like that's really relatable.
She's like, I've been with this person for this long. Why did I get, okay, when you were talking, why did I get a flash of like Akatar when she's like walking down the aisle and then
Yeah,
like we have like Knox come in.
Yeah. No, why
It's
are there
like,
parallels to Akatar?
No. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
no, completely. It's very much that. They have a sex immediately after. This is one of like my biggest like things I hate about romance novels, because I feel like this happens all the time when the characters reveal something so intimate but like scary and stuff like that, and then they like immediately have sex. I was like, is that what, like, it's not like that's what gets you going, but I'm like, I would be so spent if I just like poured my soul out to this person.
yeah.
I would not want to all of a sudden bone them.
Well, and also like I was gonna say, I was like, you like said all this like really emotional stuff. The ex-fiance was just there and you witnessed that happen. But on top of all that, you were just working. In my head, because I work at a restaurant, in my head, every time she's working and then something happens, I'm like, who's taking care of her tables? I start to have like this like panic of like, who's watching them? Oh my God, she's gonna get left, she's gonna get behind, like freaking out. I guess like maybe because like she's opened up and then but they kind of have a pattern with that because like he opened up and then they like kissed and then it's like she opens up and then also Warner did get some good punches in on Knox, so maybe Knox is like hurt and then she sees him and she's like, oh my gosh. But yeah, I love it because like in the notes it's just like Naomi tells him that Warner was abusive during their relationship and then they have sex in his office.
Yeah, like
I'm like,
and
yeah.
then a second later they're having sex.
Yeah. I mean, another thing about the office though is like he doesn't let anyone in that office. There's a code. He's like, this just him and the dog are the only people allowed. But then he like gives her the code and he's like, if you ever need to come in here, like you can come in here. So I'm like,
Totally.
aw, but yeah, no, maybe not the best time.
No, not
And
the
she's
best time to
working.
bone. Yeah, and she's supposed to be working. I
Her
guess.
tables are like, can I get another beer? Like,
Yeah.
where did she go?
Yeah, I guess Fiona or whatever is like covering the tables or whoever.
Oh, I'd be pissed if this girl started and then she was like having sex with the boss all the time and I had to take over her tables. I'd be so mad.
And like the group of people like know they're having sex too. Like that happens so often in this book where it's like they'll just like disappear for a little bit and they're like, oh, are you having sex in there? So it's like, yeah, I would be fucking livid if
I'd be
like
so mad.
all of a sudden these people dump a bunch of, or
Yeah.
I guess she dumps a bunch of tables on me.
Yeah, maybe the most unrealistic thing. There's like, I mean, obviously the book is like, it's cheesy and there's like unrealistic and there's all this, but I love it. But probably the most unrealistic thing is no one's pissed that they have to take her tables over.
Literally.
I'd be like, these are my
Literally.
tips now. Like,
Yep, me
I've served
too.
this table, so
Totally.
yeah.
And the people at the table like don't ask any questions like, oh, where did my server go for the
No.
6th time?
No, and they mentioned that like people are coming and they really like her, so they're like
Yeah.
specifically asking for her and like her section. So I'd be like,
I'd be even more pissed if I was someone else and that was happening. I would be livid. That weekend, Knox takes Naomi and Waylay to it's kind of like a shelter for unhoused people. And he has a monthly volunteer shift there where he gives the people living there haircuts and like it's kind of like a food donation thing and like all of this stuff, just basically setting these people up for success. I loved this part too because I think people really, maybe not in today's day and age, but I feel like before this became like a more common thing to happen. Like people really underestimated how much like a haircut and a beard shave and stuff like that can do for unhoused folks. Like I just think like that it really like you see people like transform and like feel so much better about themselves or feel more confident or are able to get a job because there's less prejudice against them. And yeah, it was just a really sweet moment.
I really liked this part too. I just thought it was funny that he's like, I'm gonna take Naomi and Waylay, and it's like,
Yeah.
look at this nice thing that I do.
Yeah.
Like it was really, really nice. And it's like, yeah, you get this sense of like him, and obviously he loves the town. He's like giving back and he's still working. And also I was thinking too, when we were talking about like how he still works and he owns these things, like that's also employing people. Like he could just like not work, but he's like got these businesses and now he has all these friends and then he's like employing people and keeping everyone like, you know, he's really concerned about his staff and everything. But it's just so funny how he's like, I do this once a month. And then it's like, there's really not a reason for them to be there. But he's like,
there's zero reason.
We're gonna go to this thing today. And then she's like, oh, look at what he does. And I'm like,
yeah, I was like that too. Hook, line, and sinker.
I just imagine him like, he's just like cutting hair and he's just like, like
looks over like, yeah.
She's got hard eyes.
But she like really does, because you see him also transform from like a really grumpy person to like, especially with the Barbary, and like he loves his clients. He like takes care of it. He like is really soft and gentle and like it's very, very sweet every time he's like cutting hair.
Yeah, you start to see it like come out, and especially the way he talks to her. Like he's always kind of like gruff and like says things, but like he does soften a lot, and like you can tell in just like certain things that he does. But yeah, I just thought that was really funny. I was like, he wanted them to see that he does this stuff.
I get it. A person that just got his haircut from Knox comes up to Naomi and Knox afterwards, and he's like, oh, like you've got a girl. Can I introduce myself? Like, I'm Duke. You can tell that Knox gets like kind of weirded out by this interaction, but nothing really comes of it. It's like a weird moment, nothing happens. The next day, he takes her out for breakfast and fucking dumps her. That was like fucking shocking to me. Especially because like I feel like he has sex with her that night.
Yes.
Yes.
There's a whole description about it. Like he's like, this is the last time this will happen, and I'm so sad. I'm like, you're gonna fill her in on that? Like you're gonna tell her?
Guys are so fucking dumb, because he's like, this is the last time I'll have sex with her. It's like, for what? For what reason? Because he's scared. But it's like also kind of gross because he has sex with her like from behind, and he's like, I couldn't even like look her in the eye and stuff like that. I'm like, that's how like disconnected you are to your emotions and stuff. Like that's fucked. And then he broke up with her at breakfast in public.
I also just hated how he was like, as soon as it's like the Duke like meets like Duke, and then just everything after that is so like, woe is me, I don't deserve anything, and this has to end. And it's just so like, I'm just like, you're annoying. Like, why does this change anything? Who cares?
I know. And I know that this is the crux. Like, this is why this is a book. Like, this is written. Because there has to be a third act breakup or whatever.
Yeah.
There has to be, like, some type of climax. But it's, like, it sucks when you just want to, again, shake the character and be like, if you just told her what was going on with you, this would be solved. But instead, you just break up with her and, like, stonewall her and ghost her. And obviously, she's going to be, like, Devo. So she is shocked. She's pissed. And she refuses to talk to him. Even though he continues to text her and call her and like try to apologize a million times.
He's like, just because we're not together anymore doesn't mean that I don't care about you, and I don't want to take care of you guys.
Yes, like doesn't mean I can't be in yours and Whaley's life. And it's like, that's not how this works. You fucking dummy. It's kind of like in VPR, Vanderpump Rules, when Ariana is like to like their friend group, like, if you choose to hang out with Tom Sandoval, you can't hang out with me because I don't want him to have access to my life. And it's like this exact same thing. It's like, no, you can't just hang around us and get all the benefits, but like not man up and like be in a relationship with me. Cause it's like, not to use that phrase. I know we're not supposed to say that phrase, but like, it's like you don't get access to my life if you don't want to do the vulnerable thing and admit that you love me and that you're scared.
Yeah. When I'm already like living on your grandparents' grandma's property near you. I work at your bar. Like this is already
Yeah.
going to be difficult. So,
Yeah. I know. I was like, what did you think was going to happen
yeah.
when you did this? But I guess he just wasn't thinking.
He said he was like, "Oh, I've done this before and like the next day I feel fine." But then like it's like a week later and he's like, "I feel worse." I'm like,
No
"Yeah, because you're an
fucking shit.
idiot."
He's so dumb. But it's
Yeah.
so funny how the whole town is so mad, like when they find out.
Yes. They like cancel appointments with him and like he goes to work and all the girls at the bar like boo. They
Yeah,
like
they're like
flip him
not
off.
talking to him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's so fucking funny. And Naomi is like so bitter and so
Yeah.
petty. She invites every one of his friends over and his brother over for a
Yeah.
barbecue on the property when
Yes.
she knows he's gonna come home and see all of them.
Yeah. I love that because she's like looking happy and like she looks great and she's like
Stunning.
whatever.
Yeah, but like it also shows you it's like, yeah, she's ingratiated into your life and
Hmm.
it's working out so well that it's like, yeah, if you break up, this type of stuff isn't going to happen anymore. So like
Yeah.
kind of thought that was a smart move.
Yeah. Well, and also she has so many like times she's thinking about how like obviously Tina's kind of like running around with guys and like who knows what Waylay's been around, but she's like, I can't have this example that like someone hurts me and then I just like give up on life or I just like, obviously I can be sad and I can tell her that I'm sad and like but she's afraid to tell her that it happened because she doesn't want her to feel abandoned. But she's also like,
Yeah.
I need to have a good example that I can be like, I'm sad and this is what's happened, but like I need to keep going and I need to like, I can't stop all the stuff that I've done for Waylay. Like we're not going to stop like having people over and
Yeah.
doing fun things and interacting like, and I'm just going to stay in bed and like be sad. Like we need to keep going, like to show her
Absolutely.
stability and that I'm here and that like things move on.
Totally. And he
Yeah.
like at the barbecue like kind of tries to like encroach on everybody and everyone's not having it and Waylay goes like you made my aunt Naomi sad, like I don't like that.
Hmm. And I'm taking
We're
your
not,
dog.
yeah, we're not friends and I'm taking the dog.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Also, he says something to Nash about like, because Nash and like Naomi are like kind of talking, and then he makes a comment to Nash like in front of everyone about his second, like his leftovers or something like that.
Yeah, that was ugly.
And
Yeah.
even Lucian, whatever, he's like, you need to go. Like
Yes,
you're
yes.
you're
A
being mean. Like
dick.
this is stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, which I'm glad they called him out because I'm like, he would have just dug himself into a hole that maybe they actually couldn't have gotten out of.
Hmm.
Thankfully, like that didn't happen. But like, I feel like, weeks could have passed and he could have been a dick and maybe they,
Yeah.
like, spoiler alert, don't get back together. But they
Yeah.
do. Thank
I think
God.
it kind of like shocked when he did that and made those comments because like you kind of saw him change a little bit. So
Hmm.
she could have written it where he sees this happening and he doesn't go over and he's kind of sad and he's like, oh my goodness, and he's like thinking about it in his head. But as a realistic character, he's upset and he like goes over and he causes a scene and he makes himself look stupid. And I liked that better because I was shocked of what he said. Like I was like, after all that, you're going to say that about her to Nash. I'm like, I was like, okay, it seems not realistic because not everyone would do that, but it's not what I expected to happen. I thought he was just going to go into his house and just be like,
100%. No, you're totally right because it's like he could have just, or like the book could have ended here where it was like he realizes he was wrong and
yeah,
then he does a big romantic gesture and they get back together. But
yeah,
you're right, this is way more realistic that like he resorts back to his old self. This is how he treated women before like Naomi and stuff like that. And
made it worse.
yeah, and he's being
Literally.
held accountable
Yeah,
from his community and I appreciate that.
yeah.
He continues to like, try to get in touch with her a bunch. There's this weird point in the book which this was like I was like this is dragging a little.
Hmm.
But like his ex Lena comes into the bar, kisses him on the mouth, which I thought was like, why would you do that? And then immediately be like, oh, this is the girl you like
Hmm.
fucked it up with. I'm gonna explain a little bit more about Knox and his dating patterns. And
Yeah,
it's like, then why did you walk in and kiss him on the lips? Like that was
I know. I was so confused too. I feel like it was just trying to introduce her as like a badass. Like she like walks in,
yeah.
grabs him, and he's like him. But yeah, I was just like, it could have easily just. I mean, if even if you just came in and started talking to him, and clearly you guys knew each other, then Naomi is like feeling some kind of way. She'd probably be like
Exactly.
sad. But then yeah, it's like, and the fact that like it was very strange. And then they like went out for drinks together to like talk, but I'm like, yeah, it just, I don't think it was necessary. Or even if she hugged him, like even if she came in and he like
Totally.
approached her and hugged because they knew each other, I'd be like, she'd probably be upset. But
Have the same reaction.
yeah.
100%, because when she sees Lena walking into the bar, she's like, "Oh my god, this girl's so cool. I would want to be friends with her."
Hmm.
And then she's like, "Oh my god, that's his like new girlfriend. Like, is he dating a new
Yeah.
person?" And then yeah, finds out that she is his ex, and then they go day drinking, which is really fun, and all the
Hmm.
girls end up joining them.
And the guys,
And the
Nash,
guys, which
Nash
is
and
really
Lucy.
fun. Nash and Lucy join. We see this moment between Lucy and Sloane, which, again, this is another part about romance novels that I love. And, like,
Hmm.
sometimes, yeah, it's not the most subtle or, like, well written scene, but it's like, okay, there's something going on with Lucy and Sloane. So it's like, we
Hmm.
know there's something there
History.
that's going to be explored at
Yeah.
another time.
Something we didn't mention was after the poker, and then
Hmm.
like Lucy asked Naomi to dance, and like she had just been with Sloane, like talking in the restaurant or like wherever they were, and then like Sloane, like I loved the first interaction where like Sloane and Lucy like see each other, and it's the first time we ever know something's happened, and she like I can't remember what she says to him, but she just like is really mean, and and then Naomi's obviously freaking out. She's like, "That's my new friend," and I
Oh yeah, I
didn't
just
know,
ruined it.
and I'm
Yeah.
like dancing with this guy and I want to know what's happening, but she felt like she couldn't say no. Like, well, she didn't not want to dance with him. It wasn't like romantic or anything, but it was like they just had fun playing poker and he's very like charismatic or whatever. But yeah, I just love how Sloane's just like,
I cannot wait because I haven't read ahead. But yeah, so Naomi has to continue working at the honky tonk. This is so funny because again, Naomi is refusing to talk to Knox,
Mhm.
and they're both at the bar together. She's working, and he's like, "Come talk to me," and she's like, "I've got 7 tables," and he's like, "Well, you also have a mandatory 15-minute break in in a few, so
Yeah,
on your break, you'll come and talk to me."
yeah.
And
And
then
doesn't he say like 15 minutes? And then he's in his office and he says 16 minutes
minutes
later, I
has
go
passed.
downstairs and I'm like,
Yeah.
where are you? Yeah. And he's like
Yeah.
just like he was like staring at her. She's just working. She's
She's
like,
just working away. And
yeah.
he's like, "If you don't come with me right now, I'm going to pick you up and carry you to my office." And he literally does this. And it's so funny because in books, I'm like, "Let's fucking go."
Yeah, yeah,
Like, I'm like, "Oh my God, this is so cute. I wish this would happen to me." But it's like, in real life, this is insane and I would
yeah,
hate this. But in a book, I'm like giggling.
yeah. She's like, oh, she's like, what are you doing? Because her skirt is short. She's like, everyone can see my butt, and he just like covers.
Yeah, he like slaps her on the butt. I'm like, this is so cute and playful and fun. But yeah, in real life, I was like, that's fucking insane. But
Yeah.
it's so cute.
And then I'd be typing in my order, and that would happen, and I'd be like, oh my God,
Yeah.
again. Okay, I've got 7 new tables now.
Yeah, you're like, they're never gonna get their hot wings or whatever.
Yeah. Everyone's cheering in the book, but in real life, like everyone would be like drinks are up, and like buzz, 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 like food's ready, and everyone would be like, I just sat you another 4 tables at once, and it would just
Everyone's
be
like, "I'm fucking
chaos.
starving and
Yeah,
like I'm
I'm in
never
the
gonna get my
weeds.
food." Yeah.
Yeah.
So funny. They end up in his office and he eventually explains finally what happened, that he is scared and they can't be together because he's seen loss happen in his life. Like when his mom passed away, his dad like turned to alcohol, and he reveals that Duke, the man at the shelter, is his dad. He just talks also about when his grandpa died, he saw the same thing happen with Lisa J. There's this quote that I love. He's like, "She drew the curtains like closed to keep the light out. She stopped living. Those curtains stayed closed until you." Like these
Hmm.
very cute moments.
And they did make a comment about like when she first went into the house in Liza's house, which is like it's dark and the curtains are all closed and it's kind of like dusty.
Musty,
And then
yeah.
later, like after she helps her clean, they talk about how it's kind of transformed. And then you see like people like when her parents show up and then Waylay and like everyone like they're having big dinners there and they're having barbecues and like everyone's kind of like staying there and
Living
hanging
again.
out. Yeah.
And sometimes it takes another person to come
Hmm.
in to a dynamic and like shake it up, because I feel like
Hmm.
in with grief and stuff like that, you can just have it become like a routine where
Hmm.
you're like closed off and stuff like that.
Yeah. And she kind of brought the brothers together too. Like, I mean, I know in the beginning it was kind of like, we're going to compete for her, but it didn't last very long. Like, it was just like kind of like a joke almost. Like, it's like Nash was almost like joking just to get a rise out of Knox. And then once Knox, like, it was not a thing anymore. But like, there's that scene where they're all going for dinner for the first time at the house. And then like Knox and Nash start like cooking for
Yeah,
dinner, and they're
yeah,
like in the
yeah,
kitchen together and they all sit down and then they're
yeah.
like fighting over who gets to sit next to her. And I'm like, I love that.
It's so cute.
Yeah.
And there's some really cute quotes in this big kind of like monologue. Naomi says, I understand that you cared and it scared you. I understand that Waylay and I weren't reward enough to get you to face that fear. I get it. I'm dealing. You made the call. Now you have to deal with the consequences, which I fucking loved.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's talking about how like he feels so open and exposed and raw, but better. And I was like, isn't that the truth about vulnerability? Because you feel exposed and you feel seen and raw and open, but you feel better because being, you know, vulnerable is so important in relationships.
But doesn't he already know that? Because when he opened up about him and Nash, he felt better after. And then he like kissed her, and then him and Nash were better. But he's a guy. Just kidding.
He's a guy. And also it's like, I do feel like you have to maybe get in like a routine, I guess, with being vulnerable this way and showing that it can feel better. But the final moment is like so cute. So they're like coming to the end of this conversation. They're kind of they're accepting that they're not going to be together. And he goes, do you think we would have carried on? I mean, if we hadn't called it off, is it possible you would have? And she goes, yeah. And he goes, yeah, what? I would have loved you. And he goes, how do you know? Because I already do, dummy. It's
and then
so
she just
cute.
like
Walks
dramatically
away.
leaves the office.
And then I love when a title of a book is mentioned in the book, but she goes, there were things a person never got over. We both just wanted someone to love us enough to make up for all the times we hadn't been enough.
I feel like that also goes back because when he like left her, and then like Waylay's first thing that she said was like, oh, we weren't good enough for him. He didn't want to be around us. Like, I'm not good enough for him. You're not like, he just got rid of us kind of comment. Like, it's just that, yeah, that feeling of like not being enough. And it was really sad. I was sad for them, like, but I was more sad for Waylay.
I know.
Like, I was really sad for Waylay. And then he's like trying to talk to her at the barbecue. And she's like, no, I don't like the way you treat, which is good too, because she's seeing her aunt like living her life still and having a barbecue and being like, this doesn't bother me, even though it does. And then Waylay's like, you were mean to her, so this is done. And like,
absolutely.
And then also kind of throws it in there like, you got rid of us, you're dumb. And then he's like,
like,
oh no. Yeah.
Both of them really good with boundaries. Like couldn't be me, but
it's like you think he's like, oh no, like this doesn't have to change things with us. It's like you think that Waylay's gonna still want to be around you.
I know.
She's like, no, my boundary is you're done and I'm keeping your dog. And he's not coming back.
I know. But like so many people think that like they can, you know, have their cake and eat it too with relationships like that. They're good at setting the boundaries, holding him accountable for being a fucking dumbass.
Yeah.
But moments later, because they're still, you know, she's still working at the bar. Moments later, she is lured outside. Tina's in the car. Tina handcuffs her.
With like, I love how they say they're like fuzzy, like pink
like sex toy handcuffs, which is like classic Tina. And they bring her to a warehouse in DC. And we find that Waylay is there. She's also been kidnapped. She's strapped to a chair with tape over her mouth. And the man that came to the library before, whose real name is Duncan Hugo, is there. And both him and Tina are looking for a flash drive. And this is like really scary because he has like a gun. He's basically threatening to kill both of them unless they can produce the hard drive or the flash drive. They're like, hey, we need to like get out of here safely. And there is a moment where Tina kind of like, because she like doesn't give a fuck about her kid clearly or her twin sister. There is a moment where she's like, I feel like I can get the best of both worlds. We can get the information and Naomi and Waylay can get out of here safe. And that's trying to trick Duncan into like them switching places.
I think she doesn't care, but I think at the same time it's like she's used to getting in trouble, but I think this one was just like way deeper into anything than
Yeah,
she ever
it's like
had. So it's like
you're
a
right.
fear for her. Like
Totally, because
it's
she's used to like robbing and kind of not petty crime, but like low, like not murder. I
yeah,
feel
yeah.
like. So she's like, this is escalating. She's like, we gotta switch clothes and pretend that we're each other to get out of this. And it's
Yeah.
so fucking funny because they switch clothes. Then so Tina goes up to Waylay and she's like, Waylay, honey, sweetie pie, are you okay? I'm so sorry this is all happening. It's my fault because I'm so snobby and act like I'm better. Like she is in a life or death situation and she still has to get one over on Naomi that she has a fucking stick up her ass and she's the chill one and stuff. It's so fucking funny. But Duncan quickly realizes that what their plan was, and he's like about to shoot them, and there's a scuffle, and Tina gets away. Duncan grabs Naomi and like starts to strangle her. She passes out, so it's like super serious. Also, while this is all happening, Nash and Knox and Lucy are putting their heads together with the police resources, you know, the community resources, the illegal dealings that Lucy has,
the information that he can get.
Yes, and they find them and they catch up with them, thank God.
I love when he's like, this is what we're gonna do, like, and he's like listing, he's like, I'm gonna do this and this, we're gonna save them, and then I'm gonna marry Naomi. And I
know it's
I'm like,
it's really cute. So he shows up, they all show up, and Knox beats up Duncan, and you know the police arrive and they take them away and stuff like this. And he goes to help Waylay and Naomi. She wakes up, thank God.
Coffee.
Yeah, she's like, coffee, which was so relatable. It's so fucking funny.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I want, like, when this is all done, like, I want to marry you and stuff like that. And this is the funniest part. She's like, what happened, like, with the change of heart? And, like, both Waylay and Naomi are like, okay, like, what happened? Like, and he's like, you think I'm dumb enough to let you two go? And everybody is like, yeah. Like, they're all just like, yeah, you are. Yeah. You fucking dummy. But all's well that ends well. Waylay had actually copied the information on the flash drive. And so even if Duncan gets like the second copy, she also has a copy. And it's just a list of names and addresses, including Nash's, but we don't figure out what the importance of those addresses and names are, but I'm assuming that will get solved in a future book. And then we get an epilogue where they're at Waylay's birthday and she's gotten everything she ever wanted for her birthday because, again, those weren't like really celebrated when Tina was her mom. And just like a bunch of nice kind of things happen to like wrap up their story. Lisa J gives the main house to Naomi and Knox and says, I'll take the cottage, your parents can take the cabin, we can all, you know, live as one big family, which is
because
good,
the parents are moving there now. I'm like,
the parents are just like okay to move there, but I'm like, this is nice because I'm like, Naomi like didn't choose to be a mom and has never been a mom and now has an 11-year-old, so it's nice that it's like it takes a village to raise a kid, like, so it's really sweet. And then Knox officially proposes to Naomi. And then we figure out Tina's in jail, but signs over the custody of Waylay to both Knox and Naomi. And Knox is like, I want more kids. Like, it's very, very cute.
Doesn't he tell her that he wants more kids when they've like snuck off to his childhood room?
And again, they are fucking. No, they are literally fucking, I think, like in the next room at her birthday party. I was
at
like,
Waylay's
keep
birthday.
it in your fucking pants. It's your kid's birthday. Like, what about if someone walked in and they're like, oh, where's the cake? Like, or it's like time to blow out the candles or like something like that. Or like a kid's choking on a hot dog and they're just fucking in the bedroom.
I'm sorry, but all of these things are like innuendo, like the things that you're talking about. I'm just like,
blowing.
Time to blow out the candles. Like,
choking,
something's happening in here. Oh, so funny.
I'm crying. That's so funny.
I do love though, like, okay, because I feel like with romance books, I know the ending is like, we're talking about like they get the house, the parents are moving there, the proposal, like everything works out. But I'm like, it made me so happy because I'm tired of reading books of these romances where they die.
I know, or like their best friend dies, or like they're not happy or whatever. No, I want a happily ever after.
Yeah,
I'm
like,
on board with this.
Sometimes I get to the end of a book and I'm like, this is separate, but like one of the examples I'm thinking of, like, no, without any spoilers, is like I read Normal People. At the end of the book, I was like, what was the point?
No, no,
Like
you're like,
why
I want to kill myself.
like why did I do this?
I know. When it's like this type of book, I'm like, oh no, I like believe in love again.
Yeah, yeah. It's like it's so cheesy, but it made me happy because I was like, oh, and I just imagine them all living on this property and all their houses and they're growing up, they're so happy. Also, I love that no one gave a fuck about Tina. Like her parents didn't care. They're all like make little jokes about Tina and then like nothing gets solved or resolved there. They do
I
not
know.
care.
I know. I will say, like, obviously, Tina has done some, like, really awful things, like, basically abandoning her kid and treating her kid like shit. But I'm like, they treat her kind of like she's evil instead of just, like, a deeply, like, unwell person.
Yeah. Like if like the parents just like make like little like comments or jokes where it's like
It's like you
it's like
also kind of abandoned her because you guys haven't talked to her for 12 years. They're 36. So it's like you haven't talked to her since she was 24. Or longer. So it's like
she must have left and just like been like they cannot find her, can't reach her, like she's not on anything, like just completely. But yeah, I just was like they just acted like that was their only kid.
I know that's so true. And they talked so much shit about Tina because at the same time, like when Knox would like talk shit about Tina or like other people, I kind of wanted to be like, that's her sister, because it's like if you're talking shit about one of my family members, even if I hate them, like I'm standing up for them, but they just are okay with her being treated like that, which like again she's a bad person, but like it feels like she's a bad person out of like kind of necessity, not that she's like some evil witch.
Yeah, but I'm like, oh, it might have been too cheesy if like in the end they like became friends and they were better.
Yes.
But then I'm like everything else was cheesy, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It just showed it was like there was some relationships, even if they're with your family or your siblings, like you just don't, you're so different. You don't get along. There's just no relationship. And just because you're family doesn't mean that like you have to
totally
like have a relationship. But
you're right, it's illustrating totally that you like don't have to rehab someone if you feel like they're like beyond repair, or if it's like gonna do harm to you. You're right, then you can just like set boundaries and like cut them off. That's a really
but I'm
good
wondering
point.
if in her head at the very end, like for Naomi, she's like, I'm really happy this happened. Like it's like the timing of like her leaving, like she had no idea, she like leaves Warner and then like comes to like see her sister because she's gonna like, I feel like if there was ever a relationship, she'd be doing more of like putting more effort in, because obviously she hadn't heard from this person and showed up after all this time to like give her money.
Totally.
But it's like if she hadn't done that, she wouldn't have come here, she wouldn't have met everyone. So it's like, you screwed me over, but like, I'm kind of happy that you did this.
Totally.
Now I have like this whole other life.
That's like seems meant for her. Okay, let's get to our discussion. Let's start with our internet investigation. This is our cursory peruse of the internet of things you need to know. We've talked about this, but yeah, Knock 'Em Out is a fictional town. I did like a quick peruse. I always quickly look at the author's like socials, and it's so funny because Lucy Score's Instagram is just like all her book stuff, and then every other personal picture is just her eating tacos.
Yep.
Like everywhere around the States. And I'm just like, you seem like a cool bitch that I would want to hang out with.
Also, whenever I read a book, I'm like looking up the author on Instagram. I want to see what their partner looks like.
Yes, I always want to, because oh my god, like Sarah J. Maas's husband is like basically recent.
Yeah. Well, and Lucy's husband is like a big, tall, burly, like bearded man.
Of course. So
I'm like, this is so funny. But she's so cute.
Yeah, she's very cute. I would want to be friends with her. Okay, our Wonder Whys. These are unanswered questions for the listeners. Obviously, like, I really want to know what happened with Tina. I'm like, is she just, like, going to be in jail for the rest of the series? Or does she, like, get released? Is there a happily ever after for her? I want to know what the fuck is with the flash drive, with the addresses and the names. But those are, like, the book, like, the plot points I have Wonder Whys about. The real question is, the names in this book are so crazy. Like, why did she name that guy, the friend, Lucien, but then have his nickname be Lucy? And it's like, bitch, your name is Lucy.
Yeah, and it's like the character that's like mysterious, like tall, dark, and handsome, like mysterious guy. Like we get probably the least amount of information about him in this book, but we know that he's like maybe into some like like with some dangerous people, into some things. Like he runs something, and then you're like, I'm gonna name him Lucy.
It's so weird. But that, I
Yeah.
guess that kind of maybe softens him a little bit, but it's just, it seems weird, which is to my next point in Gripes and Grumbles, our nitpicky problems we have with the book. Why is her name Waylay? I feel like when I say Waylay, I just want to say like Whaley, but I'm like saying it
Hmm.
with like an accent, like
Yeah,
Waylay.
Waylay. Watch at the end of this, someone's like, that's not how you pronounce
Yeah,
it.
someone messages us and it's like, no, it is Whaley, you
Yeah.
fucking idiots.
I'm like,
Like,
then make it Wayley.
no, seriously. And but why would they name the like one of the titular characters Waylay and then the
Hmm.
dog Waylon?
I know, and they spend so much time together. Like, I think there was a part where like Waylon like jumped off the couch and like onto the like jumped and started like walking like on the floor. I'm like, I've got it mixed up in my head. I was
Yeah.
like, why
In
did
your
she
head,
do
you
that?
pictured Waylay jumping off the couch.
Or she
That's
like
so
knocks
funny.
like lets the dog out, and then the dog starts running across the field to the house, and I'm like, the kid?
No,
Why was the
and
kid in the house?
he calls her Way a lot, and I was like,
Yeah.
well, you probably also call your dog Way
Yeah.
because you give nicknames to everyone. So I'm just
Yeah.
like, I
And
don't
they
get
do
that.
address that like in the beginning of the book, like they make a
Yeah,
joke about the names, but I'm like,
yeah.
still, I
Like change it. I hated
yeah.
that. I really fucking hated that. This was another thing I hated so much, but like, you know, it's like love hate. But like we talked about so many times where Knox would stick up for women in the series and like had
Hmm.
a really good group of women around him. I also love men that are friends with women. Because that is also seems like a rarity nowadays.
Hmm.
But there's this thing because they synced up their periods, the female servers at the bar at
Yeah.
Honky Tonk. And so they call the week that they have their period Shark Week. And everyone knows to be a little bit more like delicate around these women. And he buys them like brownies and like shit like that.
Yeah. Like he usually doesn't even come in,
Yes, he like avoids them.
but he
But
like
it's
sends
like
in food.
which like it's so annoying because I'm like, okay, a woman wrote this. It's like, why are you perpetuating stereotypes that women are
Hmm.
psycho bitches on their period and that all
Yeah.
we need to do is eat chocolate and have everyone tiptoe around us?
Hmm.
And also, it's a known fallacy that periods don't sync up.
Yeah.
And so it's like you're also just spreading misinformation. And I know it's not that serious, but like it's annoying.
No, it's weird. And I think also I was like thinking about it and I'm like, if I worked at this bar, I'd be like, this is stupid. How dare you? And then I'd be like, this brownie's really good. Like I'd be like, thanks. Like I love
Yeah.
this.
No,
But
literally.
it's almost like I know it's not real because it's a book, but it's almost like they were like talking about it around him, and then he'd probably be like, "Oh, guys, like, why are you saying this in front of me?" But then, like, in his head, he's like, what can I do? Like, how can I make this better?" But
Better.
that would be fine.
Yes.
But then like, don't name it and like say I'm avoiding the restaurant at this time and like blah
Yes.
blah blah. Like, it would be if it came up in conversation and he knew it was happening, and then like, guys are kind of like sometimes some guys, not all, but they're like, oh, ew, like that's not good, or like I need to be like if he just like brought a bunch of food out or like did something nice, I'd be like, okay, like whatever. But yeah, to make it like, and again, I don't, maybe they started calling it that though. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Like, he probably didn't come up with that. Maybe they did. But yeah, it was weird. I was like, we all synced it. I was like, I mean, I say that with friends and it's like a joke, but
Totally,
it's not
totally.
like,
It's
yeah,
not like science. And
yeah,
also, you're totally right because he's like, let's normalize like talking about menstruation and stuff like that. And it's like, yes, absolutely. But then one of the servers is talking about how she's having like the worst cramps, but she still has to work. I was like, okay, know how you could normalize menstruation
yeah,
at your workplace? Give women sick day or give people with periods sick days when
yeah,
they have their fucking periods so they can stay at home instead of having to work.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
whatever. But like I got the gist.
yeah.
Like I got
But
the
it was,
point.
yeah, it was kind of weird. And we're like, and especially, yeah, when you think about that a woman wrote it too.
I know, I know. Like, wouldn't you want it to be like done properly?
Yeah.
Because again, I get the point of why she included this, but like, why are you just like, yeah, still perpetuating like
Yeah.
weird
Well, and
discourse?
it didn't really move the plot
Plot
forward or all or
forward,
like
I
really
know.
contribute anything because like they made some jokes and stuff, but I mean like the ladies, it's not like there was no difference in how they interacted with him or anything like
No,
from regular
no.
to that. So it's not like they were like one way and then suddenly they were different this week. Like and it didn't really come up again. Like it was just kind of
Unnecessary, which like
yeah.
some of those things were a little bit unnecessary, and I think they could have been shortened in the book, and I think
Hmm.
that we still would have loved it
Yeah.
just the same.
Yeah. I just keep thinking about like if I worked at this restaurant though, or like the bar, because I was went earlier when we were saying like they went upstairs and like they're like talking, but everyone thinks they're having sex, and then she like comes down and then she has to take a call and then she gets kidnapped. I would be like, I'd be like, cool, she's back. All right, here's what happened while you were gone. You can take your table. She's like, I need to go take a call. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, she's really nice, but I probably wouldn't have liked working with her because I would have been like, she's gone again.
No, I know.
And they got kidnapped.
It's you and I behind the bar just being like, fuck, we have to work with Naomi again. Like, she's just gonna fuck off for 2 hours, go sleep with the
Literally.
boss. Like,
Yeah, sleep with the boss and then go get kidnapped.
yeah.
I would be like, are you
And
kidding
get
me?
all the best tables because
Yeah.
everyone loves her. Like, we would be like the evil stepsisters, like talking shit about Cinderella.
I would have been like kidnapped. Okay, likely
Yeah.
story.
Like, of course, Naomi's kidnapped. Like,
She gets out of work, and there's also
Yeah.
when the teacher thing happens, she asks like, "It's okay." Like she's about to start work, finds out about the teacher, and then she's like, "Will you cover me? Like, are you okay to cover me?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, no problem." And she leaves. I would have been like, "I got here first.
yeah.
I
Like,
started. I started. I'm supposed to be cut first. Like, what?"
Yep. It's so funny. I was like, yeah, I'll cover for you. Sure, I'll
Yeah.
just work double the tables. Like,
Clearly I don't work in like a small town, southern like little place where they're like, oh, because I would have been like, no.
totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but anyways,
Oh yeah, this is just like this is more a gripe and grumble of just the romance genre, but like they always dress the man in jeans and a long sleeved Henley t-shirt. I'm gonna post what a picture of a Henley looks like. Babes, it's like the most basic t-shirt.
I know it's such a basic shirt, but it also just shows that like men can wear like the bare minimum, like jeans and a t-shirt, and everyone's like, and they look good, and girls have to put so much more effort into it.
100%.
I left a note though that was like when he shows up to the barbecue that he's not invited to, and he's like, oh, she looks so good, and like I think it's kind of also like whenever I'm reading a book, like when I've read some Colleen Hoover before, I can like see I can get a sense of the age of the author when I'm like reading the descriptions of clothes and stuff. And like, yeah, he like shows up to the barbecue and she's wearing leggings with boots with fur around the top and like a sweater and a puffer like a vest. And like I
Boots with the fur, like
Boots with the
fucking
fur.
why?
it was like the puffer vest for me too. I was like I could picture the outfit and it was like Christian Girl Autumn.
Yeah,
And I was just like
I know. In the small
Yeah.
town.
Yeah.
No, it's so funny because there's so many times I've read books where I was like, it's aged so poorly because of what the main characters were wearing. I've like DNF'd books for less.
In this book too, they don't really talk about the clothes that much.
No.
But like, I mean, they talk about sundresses,
The
which like makes sense,
sundresses.
and it's not like much like
And the jean
description.
skirts.
But that's like for work, and it's like a specific
Yeah.
like we work in like a country bar,
Yeah.
and like sundresses. It's summer, and there's always sundresses are always a thing, but it's like there's never any comments about clothes, and then the only times they do, it's like not special. It's like the jeans and the Henley, and then the other her description.
It's so funny. Okay, this was another moment that I was annoyed about when Knox and Naomi go back to the office, like we just said, because they do that all the time during their shift.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone just thinks that they're getting back together and hooking up, like especially the time where Knox is pouring his heart out to Naomi. I guess they're in like a group chat, like with like Sloane and Fiona and all the other like servers and stuff like that. And the mom's in the group chat too, like Naomi's mom. And so all the girls are like, yeah, like get it, like get back together, like hook up, like he's so hot, like blah blah blah. And then the mom just sends 6 flame emojis. I literally was like, I think this is underrated that I've said this in the book, but I was laughing out loud. Like there's so many funny fucking moments in this book that I was like LOLing.
Well, I think she just creates like memorable characters, and then since you're with the same characters and like she's put you in this little town and like these cast of characters, and then like you keep interacting with them and they interact in different ways, and then they like hang out in different groups, and like everyone's kind of like interconnected and you're like with them the whole time, then it's like, yeah, she's it just kind of makes you feel like you know them more. And then some of the
Yes.
conversations and the things that she says are just really like the back and forth is funny. And even in some like serious moments, they're still joking. Because I think like in real life, not everything is just like, I don't know. It's not just like, oh, this is like super serious. Like people crack jokes when they're like uncomfortable and they like have different personalities. And I don't know. Yeah, it's funny. It's very entertaining, the
Yeah,
back and forth.
I like that. And it does make you want to read further into the series to see
Hmm.
more from these characters and see which ones are going to become more main characters instead
Yeah.
of like side characters. So, I enjoyed that.
I think it's nice with the mom too because I think you'd probably just expect that she's like, this person isn't good for you or this person's like this, but it's so funny of her just being like, wow, like good for you. And it shows like their relationship. And then also I think it also shows like Naomi feels like, she had to marry Warner because he was like this and it was what she
Yeah.
thought everyone wanted for them, but they're like,
Yeah.
no, we just
We
want you
didn't even
like
like him. We
we
just
didn't
want you
even
to be
like him. Yeah.
happy. Totally. We don't need the perfect guy on paper if he's the perfect guy for you.
Hmm. And her mom's like, and if he's not the perfect guy for you,
He's the
then
perfect
he's the
guy for
perfect guy
me.
for
Yeah.
me.
Like, yeah, so funny. One last gripe and grumble from me, unless you have any, but I just felt like it relied too heavily on tropes, which it didn't need to do. But we had
Hmm.
like the runaway bride situation. He's also not a billionaire romance, but he definitely has the characteristics of a billionaire romance where it's like he is, yeah, really rich and spends money on the female main character.
Hmm.
There's the like not enemies to lovers, but like the rivals
Hmm.
to lovers, also neighbors to lovers, single parent trope, small town trope, grumpy sunshine trope, and you mentioned this that I completely forgot, the fake dating trope. So
Yeah.
it just like there was just a lot going on and I'm like
Yeah.
it didn't need some of these aspects and it would have
Hmm.
been still just as good
Yeah.
or better.
Which ones do you feel like they shouldn't have had? Because like when I'm looking at the list, I feel like,
You're right. It's like what I think billionaire, like I don't think he needed to like win the lottery.
yeah, and then it could have been like he he has all the same stuff, but he did it himself. Like he built it all up. Also, I think that, I mean, I feel like the other stuff, like Runaway Bride, Neighbors to Lovers, Single Parent, Small Town, Grumpy Sunshine, I think those are fine, but feel like I could have just gotten rid of the fake dating, the whole thing.
Yes, got rid of billionaire, got rid of fake dating, and
Yeah.
runaway bride too. Because I'm like, she could
Hmm.
have just broken up with her fiance at the altar, and then weeks later or months
Yeah.
later, been called to help Tina and
Yeah.
had to go down.
And the dress, like she had the dress in the car, but like at one point, Steph like arranges for all of her stuff to at the house to be like taken care of because they're gonna sell the house, and they could have had like the dress still there.
Yeah,
And
or
then he
like
like asked
sent to
like,
her, like
yeah, like what do you want to do with this dress? Like it didn't have to be like
yeah.
immediately after.
Or like I'm gonna sell my dress for money because I need money right now. Or like I'm
Hmm.
gonna sell off my assets that I don't need,
Yeah.
including my wedding dress or something like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. The
yeah,
first time I read it, since it was the first one of me kind of getting into the like romance world, I didn't think about it. But the second time reading it, I definitely like I for some reason I don't even remember if I can't remember if I remembered about the fake dating part, but now that I'm like in the world of it and I know the tropes and I'm like, oh, what's my favorite and all this stuff, the fake dating thing came up while I was reading it the second time and I was like, oh my, like I kind of had that thought where I was like, another? And I don't think that they needed to because her mom clearly, like her dad was uncomfortable when he came down when Knox came downstairs, obviously. Like, I mean, it's her dad, but her
yeah.
mom wasn't. And I really don't think they would have judged her for anything
No.
because she just left a bad relationship. And obviously, they didn't know how bad it was, but like they figured if she leaves, it's probably bad. She's smart. And then they'd probably be like more concerned with her jumping into a new relationship like weeks later than if she's just like, went to this small
I'm
town and
fucking
met a
around.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like met a guy and she's doing well and everything else. Like they show up and she's like, got a place to stay, got the kid, like doing really well with the kids in school. I have two jobs. I'm making all these friends. Like she's settling in so well. I think they'd be more concerned with like, why are you getting involved with someone seriously
Totally.
this quickly? So I feel like the fake dating and I feel like fake dating, she's all concerned about Waylay and like how Waylay's going to feel and like how everything looks. But I think it's worse if you fake dating because it's going to come to an end at some point. So you're just kind
Totally.
of like, it's just going to hurt more for the
Totally.
kid.
And she's 36. Cause that was the other thing with with the social worker, they were like,
Hmm.
well, I'll look more stable if I'm in a relationship versus like just having a friends with benefits, and I was like, do we still care? Like, I don't think social workers would care about that. Like, I guess maybe they're like, oh, this is kind of like a random man, but it's like they live on the same property. And like, I don't know.
Like the family, they're like, he knows her, Nash knows her, Liza knows her. Like they're all like interconnected. They live on the same property. Like he could just also be there. Like he's helping out. He's wanting, like he's helping out with Waylay. He's helping out with the house. He's helping her. Like they're just getting to know each other. Like it doesn't have to be like we're together.
Exactly. 100%.
But he has a problem doing things in public. So they have to like, he's like, oh, we're at this barbecue, let's just do stuff, right? Like, so he's like, he probably has to be like, we need to be fake dating, so if anyone sees us doing anything, that they're not like, what's happening? I'm like, how about you just don't
do stuff. Like if we get caught at this like lookout point or like that field that they go to or whatever, like I guess it's better to say that we're dating.
Like how about just in the house?
Totally. Because also it's like some of the storylines, it's because it's like if I had to classify this book, I would probably just say like it's a contemporary romance novel. It's like it's like some of these tropes, it's like they did them halfway or she did them halfway, not like full on, except for probably like small town, grumpy sunshine, single parent. So it's like, like I don't know. I just think it was too much, but I don't know. I like all those tropes.
Oh yeah, I just feel like I haven't read many, but I feel like if you're going to do fake dating, it has to be such a huge part of it. Like it has to be.
It's something needs to hinge on it. Like a lot of fake dating is like in front of my family who like, or like I'm going to the wedding of my ex and I need to show them that I've moved on, or my family wants me to be in a relationship because we run a business and you know, people like to see people in relationships at the helm of the company or whatever. And so, it just wasn't written all the way through. But.
Yeah. I feel like it was almost when he said it too, like when he kind of was like, oh, we've been seeing each other, like immediately just like puts his arm around and does that. I was also like, where is that coming from? And maybe he just thinks that like, since he thinks of her one way, that that would be better for him to do in front of her parents. Yeah. But then I'm like, you're just getting yourself way more involved. And you could have just grabbed your stuff and like left. I do like though when he's like, my pants, and she's like under the sink because she like threw the stuff.
She threw everything when the parents came. She was just like, I gotta get rid of this stuff. No, totally. Yeah, I know, because I'm like, also if you know that this girl is like a little bit of a goody-goody, like why would you be like, okay, we'll fake date? That will make her feel like that's just gonna make it worse.
And he spent the whole time saying like, I know girls like her, like they in the beginning, like they get attached and like you can't, you know, whatever. I'm like, then why would you? I mean, obviously he's obsessed with her, but
but it's like, why would you propose this? And it's like, we know the reason why, but it's not a logical one.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to sequel scoop. This is the tea on any upcoming sequels, seasons, and general reception. The book blew the fuck up on Book Talk. It sold 5 million copies.
Wow.
Huge. It's, you know, published in every language, all of that type of stuff. There is a bonus epilogue on Lucy's website, which I'm excited to read. I'll probably read it after we finish recording.
So sorry, when you read it on, you're reading it on Kindle, like you read it on Kindle, right?
Yeah, there's no 5-year jump of an epilogue. So I'm assuming that is in paperback and then also on her website. This book, as we've said a few times, has been picked up by Amazon, by MGM Studios, to be developed into a TV series, which is going to be huge. I think, as again we've said, I think it's going to be really well done because there's so many plot points. Like this would be a perfect like 24 episode TV season, and there's a lot of really cool shots, like the runaway bride, the small town romance stuff, the kidnapping. Like it's gonna be exciting but also beautiful, and I'm very excited. And I think I saw this on TikTok, but people were like, no, who should play Knox? Charlie Hunnam. And I was like, from Sons of Anarchy, if you don't know him. And I'm like, that is so fucking perfect because he's an older, like he's in his 40s.
Yeah.
And he's big, burly, tattooed, beard, and blonde.
I'm looking him up because I want to find out how tall he is, and he's 5'11". So maybe if you just get like a short actress. But no, he's 43.
Perfect. He's hot as fuck. The only thing is that he would never do this project.
they'd have to be like, it's super cool, man. Like you're like a barber, you own a bar, like, and then he gets there and he's like, what am I doing? But if he did, that would be really, really
Oh my
fun.
God, I would be obsessed with it.
Yeah.
It just sucks because him in his core is so, like, he is Knox, I feel like.
Hmm.
Whereas I feel like they'll probably try to put some, like, actor, maybe like Ryan Gosling type, and
Yeah.
make him try to be like Knox. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you just gotta go from the jump, someone like Charlie Hunnam.
And when you said Ryan Gosling, I was like, no, like I love him, but I just
Love.
like
If
it's
he's
just has to
not
be
him.
he gives off more like polished and like put together. Like when I picture him, I just immediately think of him in Crazy Stupid Love. And I
Yes,
am
yeah,
like, and I like
totally.
love it. But yeah, like Charlie Hunnam, you immediately think like motorcycles and like gruff,
And
like
like,
in a bar and
yes,
yeah,
running a bar that has an illegal gambling ring happening in
yeah,
the back and stuff like that. Like
yeah.
100%.
And a barber, like in like a fancy, like I
Yes.
picture like it looks like in my head it looks so nice in there. It's super like fancy. But yeah, I can just totally see him doing that.
Totally. The book is a trilogy. It is 3 books, even though they're all standalone, but they have kind of like a like standalone in the sense of the couples that are the main characters,
Hmm.
but there is a through line
Yeah.
story happening.
And they happen like one after the other, but like not too much. But you like interact with all the same characters.
And the next one follows Nash, which I am not very excited for, to be honest. I liked him, and I hear like all the other characters were like, he's so gorgeous, he looks like
Hmm.
Knox and stuff like that, and he's like the nice one. I'm not like super stoked on his story, but then Lucian slash Lucy slash Lucian
Lucifer.
Lucifer is the main character for the third book, and I am fucking chomping at the bit to get to that one.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I
won't
am
say anything.
so excited. I know. I cannot wait.
Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of people, I looked on Book Talk. I didn't want spoilers, but I just wanted to see what the reception was. And
Hmm.
basically, everyone was saying, just like you, that they loved the first and third book.
Hmm.
And like, they were more lukewarm. Like, they didn't hate, but they were kind of more meh about the second one.
Yeah, I feel like I liked it. I just think comparing it to the other ones, and I'm wondering if she always wanted to write Nash second, or if she did it and then wrote like almost so it's like people like read the first one and then you want to go in order. So then you read Nash and then you read Lucien. But it's like, yeah, I don't know if she like wanted to write the other one first or if it just made sense in the long term or like what. But yeah, it's definitely like the third one is so good. It just also depends on the tropes that you're into as well.
Yeah,
So
totally. But it's also funny. Do you think she did that because people were gonna see Lucian and or Lucian or whatever, and then just be like, "I'm not even gonna read the third one."
yeah, but also I think without giving anything away, you almost need it to be the third because the second book, like since all the characters are still in it,
Right.
you do get a longer time of like building up to that third one. And then maybe that's why she did that. And I think that's also why the third one is so popular because you've got 2 books previously where you like see him and he's still kind of mysterious. The second you get like a little more of him, but then by the time you get to his book, you're like, okay, I need to know what's going on.
Oh my God, I'm
So,
so
yeah,
excited. But I have so many other books that I
I know.
need
Yeah.
to read before I go back to
Yeah.
the Knock 'em Out series. Okay, Mariah, any final thoughts? Anything else you want to say about things we never got over?
I don't know. I feel like it was this. I don't usually reread books.
Yeah.
So, and it's like also just because like the books of to be read, like it's so long. Like I'm like I have so many things, but I was really excited to reread this one, and I had just as much fun reading it the second time as I did the first time. So, yeah, it was like I don't really reread stuff, but it was like just pulled me back into that world, and then my head immediately goes to like, oh, I've got the third one on the shelf. Should I read that one next? And I'm like, you have a pile of library books, like don't do it. But it was also like it's really fun and interesting to like talk because the first time I read it and I was like, oh, I love this, and I'm like pass it along to someone and like, oh, you should read this. But to be able to like go through it and like kind of talk everything through and like stuff I didn't even think about or like
Totally. It's actually so crazy. And like, I think I really should actually slow down as a reader because I feel like sometimes I whip through so many books that it's like I kind of just like for not like forget, but I don't enjoy them. But every book that I've read for this podcast, even if it's not like my favorite book, I actually haven't covered my favorite book that I've ever read on this podcast.
Is that a spoiler? I'm like, which one is it?
Yeah, I haven't covered it, and I have no plans as of right now to cover it.
Oh.
I'll send it to you after.
Okay.
I've like dropped like little breadcrumbs about what it is. I think I've like put it in maybe some Instagram posts and stuff like that, but I haven't like explicitly said what it is. I'll send it to you because I'm like so precious about it, because I'm like, this is my favorite book I've ever read, and if people don't like it, I'll be sad. But it's so interesting because every single book that I've covered on this podcast, I've liked so much, and I think it's because I'm reading and I have to write notes during it. So it's like I can't like skim or anything. And then I'm really like taking my time on it. And I think that like you're saying, I would reread this book, but also it just like shows you that you're right, that like talking about it and like reading to discuss, like this is why book clubs are so popular instead of just like reading in a vacuum. It's like, it's just so much fun to discuss it this way and to read this way.
Yeah, I get that though about your favorite book, because there's like some books where I'm like, oh, read this. And then I'm like, you know, whatever. But like when I suggested this one, I was like, I haven't heard anything from her. Did she like it? I don't know. Like you're like, I'm reading the book and laughing out loud. And my head immediately is like, is it because it's good? Or is it because you're like, this is stupid? And I'm like, why am I feeling protected? Or like there's my favorite book I read last year. I think last year, or it was called The Grace Year, and I suggested to people, and I'm like, oh my god, what if they hate it? What if they think it's dumb? What will that say about me? But I'm like, but I love this book, like you better not say anything bad about it.
No, 100%. That's why I'm being precious about this book. I do want to cover it eventually on the podcast, but like I don't want one person to say one bad thing about it, and I don't think I would say one bad thing about it, even though there are bad things about it. But I love it so much that I feel like I wouldn't say that. And then I just like would want everyone to like it so much. But
I'm just imagining you're like talking with someone about the book and they say something bad and you're just like,
no,
that's getting cut out anyways.
I'm like, okay, moving on. They re-listen to the episode after it's been posted, and they're like, yeah, none of the like critical like none of the criticism I said about the book got included in the final edit. Like, what's
oh my
up
god.
with that?
Okay, unrelated, but have you seen Love on the Spectrum?
No, like
okay,
I've seen bits of it, but I've never watched it fully.
It just reminded me, because this poor guy, he is so sweet, and he goes on speed dating, and he doesn't realize that on speed dating you're supposed to wait till the person leaves the table to write yes or no. And so the girls, he's like, do you like nature? And she's like, I don't really think so. And he goes, and he like checks off no. And they're like, do you think you should wait until they leave? Because the girl's like staring at it. So when we were saying that about like your guest is like says something bad, I just imagine you'd be like,
no,
never again, like checking that off.
Yeah. Not only am I editing this out of the episode, but they're not coming back for a second one. Totally.
You're on my list. So funny.
So fucking funny. But yeah, I'll cover it eventually when I'm more brave, I guess.
I just want to know because I want to read it. So.
Yeah, I'm going to send it to you.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, this was super fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Can you tell the listeners where they can find you and anything else you want to plug?
Yeah, my Instagram is just at Mariah Burchell. It's kind of like a photography page right now, but it's going to be slowly moved over to like just more book related, like books I'm reading, places. I'm going on some fun trips this year, so we'll do some like fun bookstores and things, and then also really focusing in on writing in my book and the writing process. And yeah, just it'll be a lot more like book focused over there. Yeah,
so everyone should go check it out. Okay, thanks so much for coming on. And that's the story of Things We Never Got Over. Thank you so much for listening. And thank you to Mariah for joining me on today's show. If you enjoyed today's episode and you've been enjoying the show, please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an episode. Also, one of the best things you can do for indie podcasters is share it with a friend. Do you have another friend that reads romance novels or a book reader that should get into romance? Send this episode to them and have them check it out. Our next episode is The Viscount Who Loved Me. Until then, happy reading. For Ready to Be Romanced, I'm Torry. Goodbye.